Hello everybody, welcome back to LizLabz. Today we're going to be talking about POIs and loot and the things to be looking out for whenever you go for those, plus some tips and tricks on how to get through a POI without dying. So, first things let's cover is, because I know everybody is always interested in the loots, we must know what the loots look like in order to be able to get the loots in order to maximize our profits. So, let's cover the loot to begin with. First off, there's one thing that you need to understand about all POIs. They have a designation on what type of POI. They are either a tier 0, which is called a remnant, or 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 tiers. There are no tier 6 POIs. There are only up to tier 5s. Now, if you get a mission for a tier 6 mission, basically that is a tier 5 POI that is infested. That is an extra difficulty, so they call it a tier 6 mission. The way to actually check it is to look in your top right hand corner. If we go over here, this says Hogzilla Ranch LLC, and you can see that there are 3 skulls underneath it. This is a tier 3 POI, which means at the end of all of this, this is 1, 2, 3, there's going to be a chest like these. And this one is locked. Our first 2 boxes right here, this empty crate and the leather trunk, are not locked. You will not have to fight to get inside of these guys. The other tiers, you're going to have to either have a lockpick, a stone axe, which is going to take forever, or you need a pickaxe in order to get into them. At this point, it would probably be a good idea to have lockpicking skills, but it's not absolutely necessary. A good stack of them and some good luck will help you get into the boxes. It's not absolutely necessary. It is a craftable at... as you can see here, you can actually craft your lockpicks after you get a certain amount of your books in, the Forge Ahead books, and they take forged iron and mechanical parts. So there's the recipe for that, but that's how you get into these guys. And you can use something like you can use your stone axe, you can use either one of your picks. You can also even use one of these steel sledgehammers or just a sledgehammer in general, and it will get into it. But also understand that there's no box here, even though I said that there are technically 6 different types of POIs. The Remnant does not have an in loot, which is what these guys right here, these are the in loot boxes. You will know you actually covered the entire POI, or at least the important parts, because the in loot is the important part. Let's just be honest. You will know that you have finished or gotten to a majority of the places, because typically the in loot is at the end. Not always. 90% of the time. There are a couple of POIs where they try to flip it around and change it up for you so that you can actually go in, get your in loot, and pick up your package really quickly, and it's your choice on whether or not you stick around to find out if there's any hidden stashes or extra boxes or anything else like that. So there are a few of those POIs out there, and those are usually interesting, but that's neither here nor there. Not locked, locked. This is a tier 1. The zeros do not have the in loot. They might actually have one of these boxes, which I'll get to in just a second. Needless to say, the tier 5 box is usually filled with the juiciest loot. Obviously. You can, technically, if you don't mind cheesing the system, if you can memorize where the in loot is inside each one of your POIs, you could technically not take a job and just go for the in loot, get your in loot, and leave. I do not recommend doing that inside of a server, because if someone walks into a mission and the regular containers have not been checked, they will continue on through a job or a POI or something like that and go through and get all the in loot. And nothing is more frustrating than getting all the way to the through the POI just to find out someone yoinked the in loot and didn't take anything else in the building to indicate that they had been there. And so you just used up all of that ammo and didn't get any in loot to replenish that ammo. So be very careful about doing something like that in a server. If it's your own playthrough, play however you wish. Now, let's cover these other bits of loot. We do have our hidden stashes. This is a sealed shipping crate, and this is the empty hidden stash that is usually inside of it. These guys can be found in random places inside of POIs. There's at least 3 of that I can think of that... if somebody showed you one time where it was at, you would easily be able to find it again. Inside the bookhouse, inside the bathroom, inside the shower. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to tell you anything more. These guys are really, really good and usually have some pretty decent loot. And then we've got these guys right here. The Working Stiff, Savage Country, Shaka Messiah, Crack a Book, Shamway, the Mo Power Electronics, Passing Gas, and the Poppin' Pills. These guys usually have not great loot, but it's okay loot, and in some cases each one of these boxes has a chance of dropping a magazine that you might need. So inside of these ones you're going to get your electronics or your traps. Inside these you're going to get your cooking or seed books, Magazines, my bad. The Crack a Book usually has like 2 or 3 different types of books, and maybe magazines, and maybe also has a book. The Shotgun Messiah will usually have like 1 or 2 weapon parts, and also have like one of the books that you probably spec'd into. Sitting in here, the Working Stiffs, all of this stuff is basically where you're going to find some of your books, some of your parts, and some random bits of loot. And then over here, of course, is your bookcase. Always, always, always search your bookcases. Always be looking for books. Always be looking for magazines. They are entirely useful in every single crafting skill that you can possibly use. Books are going to be your friend. And then, of course, we've got our random little piles here. We've got our piles of books, our chemistry stuff, our piles of ammo, our food, and our meds. All of these little containers are hidden all throughout every single POI. Each one of these is got a chance of dropping a book, dropping an item. Typically, when you open up these little food piles, there's at least 1 canned good and a book to help you cook better. So these guys are very, very useful. These are the different types of loot to focus in on. Obviously, if you're looking in dressers and clothing racks and all of the other things, hell, even garbage sometimes has a random rare legendary in it. It doesn't happen that often, but it can. Inside your bags, all kinds of stuff, all the loot. But these are like the main ones. If you have to grab and go out of a POI, this is what you look for. Now, let's cover the other stuff about POIs and raiding. We're going to use Hogzilla Ranch as our go-to. This is not a POI you would probably jump into because this one has a grace. Typically, if there's hog written somewhere on it and there's a farm thing, expect to find a pig of some sort. In this case, it actually has grace. It's the second POI that actually has grace assigned to it, and she is what's considered a boss creature. And I put it in quotes because she actually has less health now than the bears and the dire wolves and stuff like that. So I think she actually needs amping, and she might get it later on. But let's go ahead and take a peek at this as if we were going in to raid this POI. Obviously, whenever you're looking at a POI, your first thought is, how do I get inside of it? In a lot of cases, the Fun Pimps have chosen to grace us with a path that they expect us to go. That way you experience all the cool little jump scares, all of the loot, all of the story that they have included in the POI. And typically the way of seeing that is, first off, always go for the opening. Don't try to break yourself into a POI. Like right now, if I wanted to, I could come over here and break my way into this, but it's locked. You don't have to do that, just like the noise. This is a locked door. Technically, I can beat my way in here if I wanted to. What if I wanted to go back here? Or heck, beat my way in right here, or this, or just jump on there and jump over. I could do all of those. It would be very, very easy to get inside these POIs, but if you go the way the pathing tells you to, you would go in the front door. It's wide open. Why not go in there? And sometimes the door might be closed. You just walk up, it's an unlocked door. Okay, this is where I go in this POI at. And through this POI, there is a path set up that they expect you to go, and it's guided by lights and doors. So let's pop in here really quick. I'm pretty sure I came in here earlier and scared up some stuff. Let's just take a look around this POI and see what is in here and what we should glean from the stuff that we have in here on raiding POIs. We have several different cabinets. A filing cabinet. We've got chairs. We've actually got books. We've got all these cabinets. Now, these types of cabinets right here typically are set up almost as if they are in a kitchen, but they're not always used in a kitchen. Plus, we have got our wheelchairs, our office chairs. These are really good for springs and leather and stuff like that. Early game, picking these guys up and scrapping them inside your pocket is very, very useful. And these right here are, as I said in a previous one, just running around the world and picking up chairs and scrapping them down inside your inventory is very, very useful for getting extra wood. And we've got our potted plants for extra clay if we don't want to go dig yet. And these guys right here are also a brass source. And sometimes, I don't necessarily want to wake up all of the neighbors, but sometimes underneath these pictures are safes. So always check underneath those. Now, if we continue on through here, where is the pathway telling us? Technically, we could go through this door because it was open, or we could have jumped through here. And we would go, we got 2 different ways. We've got an unlocked door. Let's try and stick to the path. Nobody in there. Nobody dropped down on us. Let's keep going. Unlocked and unlocked, so technically we could go either way. Looking through, it looks like this is one room, and that's a much bigger room. Let's check this room next.
Prepare for conflict.
Now, just to cover, that was a drop zombie. They have drop bears inside the wasteland. No, I'm kidding. You don't actually have drop bears. But basically, that's just a hidden zombie. This is where we're going to talk about sleeper spawns. Inside of this POI, if I was to turn off my AI and go invisible, I could walk around this POI and show you where all of the zombies are that are still asleep. Technically, the zombies exist inside this POI about the time you walk in. After you get within so many blocks of them, they spawn in. Not always, but most of the time. They will spawn in, and they will be standing on the other side of corners. They will be hiding up in the roof because, for some reason, when the zombie apocalypse happened, they decided to climb up into the roof, die, and turn into a zombie, and decided not to come out at any point, but fall on top of your head. That's how they got there. I don't know. Now, something to take into account whenever you are inside of these POIs, as you can see, this floor is pretty clear. This floor is pretty clear. If I go over here, where was that pile at? You can actually, there it goes, there it goes. I don't know why it wasn't making noise until there, because there's also garbage right there. Now, the garbage on the floor actually makes noise when you walk across it. There is a perk book that will allow you to walk across trash and not be heard. So if you're going through a POI and you're trying to do it stealthily, squatting down, obviously, because you can see the little eye on the bottom left-hand side, it says I'm pretty quiet, and then you turn your light off. Obviously, if you're recording or streaming or whatever, this is not really a good thing because most people will automatically jump into your comments saying, I can't see, so you have to keep your light on. But if you're in here and you're just trying to stealthily take everything out, what you can do is you can turn those things off, and if you come across a pile of dirt, you can quietly attempt to take that pile out, like that. Obviously, you would probably be using a stone axe, so let me just grab a stone axe really quick. You would probably just take a stone axe after it, and that way you could walk into the room without worrying about making noise. And also, whenever you jump up and fall down, say if I was walking in here and I went up on this chair for one reason or another, me jumping all over the place, bouncing off up and down from the furniture or whatever, that makes additional noise and will wake up zombies in a location. Zombies are governed by 3 different senses. They have their visual sense, and yes, it does matter whether or not a zombie is facing you while it's asleep. If it's facing you, it will see you easier than if you sneak up behind it. It seems kind of obvious, but in a lot of cases, some games don't differentiate between where their eyes actually are and where the zombie is. Those eyes do matter. The second thing is they can hear you. Their hearing is pretty acute for most types of zombies, not all of them. And then we have like a third random roll of the dice on whether or not it's going to sense you, and that is what is defined as smell. And there's sometimes that you will be playing the game and just for random no reasons you were being absolutely quiet, you were like at 1% quiet, and you didn't hardly do anything, and somehow or another the zombie woke up anyway. That was like, it smelled you. That's basically what happened. And then we're going to go in here, and as you can see, whenever I'm walking through here, if you'll just stop right before a door and wait, you'll get quiet. And then we're in here. Now, a couple of things about this POI. Your light sources do actually make a difference. There are zombies inside of this room, and if I walk into light, I'm more visible because they can now see me in extra light. The darkness does affect things. There's also stuff on the ground there.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
Okay. Okay. Oh, there was one up there. Where's the other guy? Okay, now then. It's something to remember whenever you're going through these POIs, and I know I'm cheating going through here right now. I'm just trying to explain something about these different places. The fun pimps do like to hide things. So whenever you're going through a POI, aside from, first off, if you can help yourself, I can't always help myself, but if you can help yourself, clear a room before you start investigating loot. I cannot say it's like the easiest thing in the world, but secondly, look for hidey holes where things might be stashed because you never know. In this particular case, there is a hidden weapons bag inside this one, and this weapons bag, as far as I know, is always there. It's not like a possible loot, it's an always loot. So whenever you go into a room, clear it, hunt for loot, look for places where hidey holes can be made, and then continue on. Here we go. Locked, which means we're not supposed to be going out that way. Locked, And locked. So if we're going by the theory that they have guided us through this building, we're hunting for the unlocked door. Now, in this one, I happen to know on the other side of this is bad. But it's not actually telling us to go either one of those ways. You're supposed to go this way.
Master, we are not alone.
And we're unlocked again. Now, let me pause right quick because you might be asking yourself, how the hell did that pig from way down there hear me? In this particular case, there is one more factor on whether or not a zombie wakes up, and it's a trigger. And in this particular case, you cannot control whether or not the zombie is going to hear you. It is intentionally supposed to spawn when you do a particular thing. Hit a button, open a door, walk into a room. Those zombies are supposed to trigger because of those actions. So in some cases, you absolutely cannot sneak into an area. In this particular case, I wasn't actually trying to sneak, but the fact that that guy was way, way far away means that this door was a trigger. Left! Okay. There we go. Alright, now here we had zombies that were up there waiting for us. We had some that were way over there and some that were inside a building. This was a tiny little bit of a boss area. Not boss area, like a slightly overwhelm area. And there will usually be, on some of the bigger POIs, more than one of these locations. Like, there might be several zombies that will drop from a roof once you enter a room. It will look like the room is completely clear, but they'll fall through the roof right on top of you. So always have yourself a way back out of a building. And then, of course, this just goes back to make sure you check everywhere. If this was a clear mission and you made it all the way to the end, but you didn't walk up here, you would miss 2 of the zombies. Sometimes the zombies are hiding inside of a roof, in a closet, and they didn't wake up. I mean, maybe they had a late night, drank a little bit too much wine. You know how zombies can be. Check everywhere. We're not supposed to go in there. We already cleared up there, and then we come to the switches. These switches exist in the game all over the place nowadays. There are also valves that will turn off fire. Be careful, because if there's a hole inside of a pipe and you don't see a fire, it does not necessarily mean that there is not a fire. Always check your valves and your switches and hit those. Just be careful, because this right here can also initiate a spawn of zombies. Walking through an area and seeing no zombies, and then you hit the button and turn around and there are like 500 zombies rushing at your face. It has happened. It happens in a few different places. Well, he thinks he's being sneaky. And that guy right there is just there so you can waste arrows on him, thinking that he's alive? Dead? Dead alive? Something?
My senses have picked up something.
And this is one of those switches that I was talking about. You can very easily tell whether or not it's something that you need to worry about just by putting your cursor over it. This valve is just here for decoration. Otherwise, it would give me the option to press it. Plus, I don't see any bursts at all. So, alright, did you guys see that? Those bodies on the floor actually impede your character's movement. So the best thing to do, harvest them. If you have a knife, you get more materials out of them, but always harvest those bodies, because if you have to run back through, those bodies will slow you down, and as far as I can tell, the zombies really don't slow down because of them. And, yeah, so make sure you do that. Now we're going to continue on. We can't go this way. Let's try and pick it up. Hang on, I actually want it to be daytime so you guys can see what it is I'm doing. There we go. Now this door is locked. Now we've actually already been inside that room. And we're supposed to go out here. Now, this is what was called the loot room. It's what everybody will tell you. Uh-oh, we have arrived at the loot room. This means big boss battle. Typically, the zombie sleeper spawn in here. Zombie sleeper spawn is basically the... How do I phrase this exactly? Whenever they're creating this POI, there is an imposter is what it's called, basically. And it's just like, here is a sleeper spawn. And I'm going to give a gauge of this many zombies to this many zombies, and I want them to be boss zombies, and this kind of zombie, and this kind of zombie. Now, some of those zombies are going to be gauged towards your character's level. It's going to change according to whether or not you're doing a job. And it's also going to change according to your biome. It could be a really big boss battle, or it could be a mediocre boss battle depending on your level, but it will usually be leveled towards you. Rarely ever will you get to a loot room and not have to fight for that loot. And as you can see, that is the tier 3 box, but the tier 3 box is not by itself. There are several piles of loot, there's a weapons bag, and there are 1, 2, 3 boxes, and I think there's loot on the other side too. Now, another thing to keep an eye out for, there are bodies on the ground, which means if we start shooting up the place and running around, we're going to get caught on those bodies. What else can we find out? There is a big bad guy sleeping. That's something to know. And also, it's weirdly quiet, like there is nothing else. There's one lady. If we were doing a mission here and it was a clear mission, on the top part where our compass is, there would be little red dots telling us where the bad guys are and whether or not they're moving. But right now, since we're not doing a job, we have to guess where our bad guys are. And I'm going to guess we really don't have to do much other than walk in here in order to wake everybody up.
Incoming enemies.
There we
Prepare
go.
for conflict.
So we got some falling down. Some that can't figure out how to fall down. Grace is in the back. I don't know what she's doing. It looks like she's actually trying to escape. And that lady back there, still asleep. So, something to note here about this boss area is there seems to be more than one... Sometimes the boss areas might cover more than one floor, they might cover more than one area, and you may not wake up all of the bad guys at the same time, so you might think, okay, I've killed these bad guys, now I should be able to get my loot. That's not necessarily true. You could walk over, say if I walk over this threshold right here, there could be suddenly more zombies sitting around somewhere like over here on top of this roof, stuff like that, and they would be triggered by me advancing into the building. There's a couple of them that are tier 5 POIs. They're the big towers. And the loot room is like on one section, and you have to traverse what it appears to be a boss area that covers 2 floors. It's kind of like a balcony area and then a lower level, but it's 1 floor, 2 floors, and the balcony is like a whole nother area, and each area has got more bad guys in it. Now, of course, we could sit here and get our big loot. We've got our boss here, and she dropped some really cool stuff right here for us, and we shot the entire place up.
Feeling about this.
Something else to note about this POI, this is just some random stuff that I'm seeing here that I'm going to go ahead and say. That right there is explosive. So be careful. If you're fighting all these guys and you start shooting down here, that's going to explode. I was actually hoping that this one would have one of the light situations to tell you which way to go. Let me see if I can find that right quick. Your entrance is right here. Here's one. We would be starting the POI. I don't know where this one's activator is, but if we were to come here and look for our way in, these are climbable. And it's also telling you, because this torch is sitting here, that this is the way you're supposed to go in. If I had gone around to any of these windows are locked. Let's go check the front door. Front door is locked. None of my windows are busted out. We have this door right here and this door right here. So none of these doors are usable. Typically, whenever this is a lattice, but you can use it as a ladder. So if we're going to go here, and it's actually got this light on the side of the building, which normally would not make any sense, but is an indicator of which way you're supposed to go. Sometimes it's locked doors, unlocked doors, and then other times it's, hey, here's a light. Okay. Let me see if they do the light situation elsewhere. And then, of course, there's also this on guiding you through which way you're supposed to be going is an actual barricade on which way you're supposed to go. This looks like we're supposed to go up to the attic. Yep. And then we are up here.
My senses have picked up something.
Yep. I'm hoping there's some more light there's another one. And of course, back here there are some no loot. Here's a little loot pile right here. It's hiding in the corner. Always check your corners, and this is actually what I was talking about. A lot of times that they do the follow the light gamer, and there's a torch on the outside telling you to go up the ladder, and there's a torch here telling you the next place you're supposed to go is down the ladder. So those are really the ways you tell which way you're supposed to advance in a POI. There are, like I said, a handful of POIs that they are specifically made up to where they are more open-aired, and you're just going to have to work your way through the POI. and try to find your loot. In a lot of cases, these ones that guide you around, they take you by most of the loot areas, with a couple of exceptions with like the hidden stashes and stuff like that may not be like the best one. In places like these, this is a lot more open floor plan. You would just go from building to building to building. There's not really an indicator because there is no path to go through here. This is a tier 1. And this is not going to be a big, I'm going to get lost. You can definitely clear from one to the other. But in situations like that, or even like this, situations like that, there's a chance that, I don't know, maybe you go all the way down to the bottom floor and break your way out through the front door and never go into the basement to find the main loot. And let me go ahead and say, whenever you're dealing with these small POIs, it may not be that big a deal. But once you get to your tier 5s, once you get to your tier 5 POIs, whenever you're doing stuff like this one, if you do not follow the pathway, there's a really good chance of, first off, getting lost. Secondly, if you're doing a clear mission, you may not find all of the bad guys you need to kill. And third, there's a good chance that you might just accidentally skip the entire loot section. So be very, very careful, or in this case, you actually go all the way up here through these broken bits, past the loot section, and all the way up onto the roof, and then go back down into the loot section. But if you don't do it that way, you're probably going to wind up missing the bad guys that are up on the roof that you came here to clear. My other tips for the POI was, first off, just making sure that you take out any bodies that are in your way because you could get stuck on them. Take out any trash that people might hear you walking across it. Thirdly, make sure you're picking up items all over the place. Break down things.
We are not alone.
Thank you. They're way down there and then way over there. Or way over there. Make sure that you're breaking things down. Keep an eye out inside your boxes. Like, do you need pipes? Do you need springs? Do you need such and such? And then look for POIs that will give you stuff. Me, personally, I don't spend a whole lot of time like breaking down beds unless I'm looking for something specific. But if I go into a POI that has barracks in them, which a lot of the army posts and stuff like that, they have a whole lot of beds. It's like, okay, well, I don't necessarily need springs, but this place has got a lot of springs. And since I'm already going to have a pack of 1, let me go ahead and bust down all the springs. So you'll eventually get to where each POI, you will recognize the asset that thing has in abundance and use that. This is not what I was looking for, but I can't actually see the bookhouse. This particular POI right here has one basically interesting thing. You might be thinking, okay, well, we can get pumpkins here. Yeah, I guess you could get pumpkins here if you're looking for pumpkins. But this particular POI is very, very rich
Incoming enemies. Prepare for conflict.
Thank you. It's very, very rich in enemies. Prepare for conflict. Could you come here?
Oh, I do love an adventure.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. Having an adventure. Inside the basement of this place, there are lots and lots of mushrooms. There's not a whole lot of POIs that have a lot of mushrooms. So, say for instance, you're going through a POI and you find a box and it's got a mushroom in there. You might drop the mushroom because it's not going to make sense to carry one mushroom all the way back whenever you have a choice between, I don't know, armor and a mushroom. If you go into this place, obviously a stack of mushrooms would be a good idea because you're going to get a lot of them here. So that is one thing I would say is a good idea. Get to where you know which POI is abundant in which item and make it about, and use that as kind of a gauge about what it is you're going to keep. And this POI over here, the Bates Motel, it's actually a very good idea if you're looking for springs to go ahead and gather up the springs because there's a lot of beds inside that POI. And then, of course, we have the nursing home. Now, the nursing home is a big POI, but obviously, since it's a nursing home, it's going to have a whole lot of beds. It's going to have a whole lot of books. It's going to have quite a bit of food and quite a bit of meds. Now, when you're in there, if you're looking at a POI and saying, okay, which resources do I think I should max out on going to this POI and focus in on those and maybe drop something that you're only going to find 1 or 2 of. There's probably a lot of plastic in this one too. You wouldn't necessarily come here for plastic. There's other POIs where you can get a whole lot more plastic, but you also might be able to find like blood bags because there's going to be the, what do you call those things? The IV bags in just about every single room. So if you're hunting for those types of things, it's like, oh, I need to make some more first aid kits. Where would be a good place to get more blood bags? Well, you can go into this building. You can go into probably any of the pharmacy buildings, anything else like that. Just try and gauge what you think each POI has got an abundance of and invest pocket space for those particular items. That would be the next thing I would say. And obviously, I would not recommend too often going into POIs that are outside of your level because it will get very, very frustrating. And nobody wants to get frustrated. Everybody wants to have a good time. And secondly, you will wind up spending more ammo than you will be getting stuff from it. Especially towards the beginning, because not just there's more zombies, that has nothing to do with it. If you'll remember the progression video that I said, it's not necessarily that you have ammo and you have a gun. It's, are you perked into the weapon? Are you perked into the reloading? Are you perked into the ability to take some damage and heal? Are you perked into the ability to take damage and not get concussed? Because it's not just a matter of, I have a gun and I have ammo and I'm going to use a lot of ammo. You can actually use a whole lot less ammo and a whole lot less health and a whole lot less food if you go in there when you're perked correctly before going into a particular POI. I think that's pretty much the only things I really wanted to cover with these particular items. There's not a lot to say about looting specifically. Now, obviously, we're probably going to cover more about questing later on, but if you are wondering, there is a spot that will tell you what you have done as far as quests, which is right here, and your quests are listed here. If you want to activate a particular type of quest, you can toggle it active or inactive. You can show it on the map, and you can remove a quest if you take a mission from a trader and you've already been to that mission like 5 times. It's like, I do not want to go through that building again. You can use this to turn it off. I would not recommend doing that for these particular items because the quest chains, you have to go into your debug menu in order to get these missions back. They won't come back, so be very careful with that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think we covered just about everything to do with the POIs. My basic tips: watch out for the trash, watch out for the dead bodies, loot the stuff that is important to a particular POI. If that POI you learn has a particular item that it is abundant in, like the prisons and the bunkers and stuff like that, having abundance of springs because there's a whole lot of beds. I would definitely make sure that you take advantage of POIs for the resources that they have, not necessarily everything inside the building. Definitely don't try to do that to your backpack. You're going to wind up encumbered a lot. Follow the path as often as possible because you will find the best loot when you follow the path, but always check the nook and crannies for every single piece of loot that you possibly can because there's some hidden gems out there. And the other thing is of course, be wary of the zombies. There are trap locations, there are hidden zombies. Whenever you're trying to do your missions, whenever you're trying to kill all of your zombies, you may have to hunt for one of them, one or two of them, so make sure you keep an eye on your compass. That may or may not help you. And ultimately, there may be once or twice that your game will bug out and a zombie will just simply disappear. In that case, it probably just fell through the building. It does happen from time to time. And if you're willing to wait, sometimes it will respawn back where it's supposed to, but you have to determine whether or not it's worth the time waiting on it, and you've already got the end loot. The only thing you're missing is the trader loot, and trader loot really isn't all that great anymore, but you will also lose the trader progression, which really isn't all that great anymore either, but judge it for yourself, and you may just want to walk away from the mission. And then, of course, be careful about the switches that you have. Be careful about, there are a couple of places where the ladder breaks underneath you. Like, I can see this hatch right here. Oh, there's fire at that one. That one's trapped. Don't go down there. But there's occasionally, like, a spot where the ladder will go down in there, and you know you're supposed to go into it because the light is pointing at it. And it's like, okay, well, this is going to drop me into this room. The best thing for you to do is use a frame to build a ladder back out because you know without a doubt it's going to drop you into a bad room, probably a boss room of some sort to try and take you out. Be very wary about dropping into areas where you don't actually have a way of getting out. If I'm not mistaken, this actually has a drop area right here. Yeah, so you're supposed to go inside this POI, drop on there, and then go down into the building. It's a bad idea to just drop into a building and have no way of getting out. Always have an exit plan, even if you hard panic and run straight into a wall like I usually do. I think that pretty much covers it, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any more tips for people who are coming over from console and don't know the exact zombie pathing, how it works, they haven't seen these POIs, brand new players to the game, if you personally go by a list of tips that you have, I would love to see what your tips are down there in the comment section, helping out all these brand new folks to this game. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you enjoy some looting, and I will see you guys in the next one. You have a wonderful day. For night, you stay shiny. Bye!